Hi, I'm Charley Martinez, and with the COVID-19 pandemic taking its toll, of course, the agriculture has been centered in terms of what's being talked about and what's on the news channels. And so for us as economists around the country, we decided we wanted to get together and talk about stuff that we all consume, and that's product that we see at the retail and grocery level. And so today on this video, we have Andrew Griffith, and he's going to be talking about the pork side and the pork sector. So Andrew, if you would just kind of give us some insight as what us as consumers can be expecting and what we're seeing.
When I think from the pork standpoint, I think three items. I think uh, bacon or pork bellies. I think loins, and I think hams. Those are the three things that really jump out at me when I'm starting to think pork. I mean, you can also go into sausage, which is a dominant thing in the state of Tennessee. But pork belly prices. When you think about bacon, a lot of the bacon market is driven uh, by the restaurant industry. And we can go back a few years where a lot of the restaurants really started instituting bacon into a lot of their items, whether it be burgers or even ice cream places putting it in on ice cream or putting it in on donuts. I mean, and so that's a big, to me, it is the driver because the pork industry has bred the loin right out of the hog. As far as I'm concerned, it's not a very strong piece of meat anymore. Well, I guess maybe it's too strong. It's just not a very a piece of cut that a lot of people are really desiring because of what they've done breeding wise. But we look at pork bellies and they dropped below $50 um, uh, a couple of weeks ago, and now they've bounced back to about $1.15 a pound or $115 a hundredweight. But last year they never went below $1 a pound, and so when you see these prices drop down to $50, and that's half the price that it was all of last year in 2019, and it even reached over 180 last year from a pork belly standpoint. So that's a market that's struggling. Here we are. We have two different markets. We have the 1 to 3 pound packages that go into the retail market, and then we've got these 15, 20 pound type packages of that go into uh, restaurant industry. And so that's a market that is always at the top of the mind, and it's struggling. Loin prices skyrocketed from about $80 in January to $213 last week. This is here I am. I was saying how bad the loin is, and it's really not a desirable cut, but it is the one thing that was extremely weak, and I think that's why it was weak from a price standpoint. Is the demand is just not there for it. But all of a sudden we have a lot of loins because every hog you kill has a loin, and now it's there, and prices really skyrocket because consumers are looking for some type of meat. At this point, when you go to your grocery store and there's only 2 or 3 items, you just get what you get. And so loins have come back into vogue. Ham prices, they started the year kind of soft, 65 to $80 range, and then they fell as low as $30 a hundredweight. I mean, that's cheap ham. Ham is cheap, and especially when we get into the fall of the year, in November, uh, December, we're killing so many hogs, we're slaughtering so many animals. That's the one thing that is saving just pork producers. I know we're focusing on meat here, but the fact that we're not in peak production right now is somewhat of a blessing from the standpoint of producers' concerns. But those prices have come back to about where they started the year, around $60, not quite to where they started the year. I think something that's very interesting with the latest export numbers that we've got, which they come from March, and so the industry had not really been influenced in the United States that much in March, but we had pork exports over 700 million pounds. That's 185 million more pounds than we did March a year ago. And when you get down to it, 75% of that, 80% of that came from increases in China. Uh, you have about 150 more million pounds going to China than what they had March a year ago. And then, of course, our normal Mexico and Japan, Canada markets, which are really strong for pork. But, China really opened that up. Now, when we get to the April numbers, it's going to be a different story, and that we'll just have to see how that plays out.
Awesome. Well, does any of our other economists on this panel have any questions for Andrew?
So Andrew, out of all the cuts that consumers are going to see when they go to the grocery store, which one do you think will be in the shortest supply at the grocery store for consumers?
I would say bellies will be one of the shorter supplies just because of how the traditional market that they're going through. The biggest part of them going through the restaurant industry, and so I think that's why we'll see less availability of that there, because these facilities just can't retool into making 1 to 3 pound packs as opposed to 15 to 20 pound segments that easily. So I think that's what we're going to see for the most part. I think it might be regional as well.
Awesome. Is there any other questions? If not, then thank you for watching this video, and we hope you enjoyed this one and the other ones that we're going to be putting out. Thank you.